In this video, we're going to begin our discussion about functions. A function is a rule that assigns to each number of the first set, which is called the domain, exactly one number from the second set, which is called the range. So let's look at a pictorial representation of a function. Let's say we have the numbers 1, 3, and 5 in this set. This will be the domain of the function. And let's say we have the numbers 4 and 7 in the range. Well, it is possible that the number 1 gets mapped to 4, the number 3 gets mapped to 7, and the number 5 gets mapped, say, to 4 as well. That's a function. Each one of the three numbers over here in the domain is assigned to exactly one number from the right-hand side, the range. Let's look at an example that is not a function. Let's take the numbers 2 and 8 for the domain. And for the range, maybe I'll say 1, 11, and 15. Let's suppose that this function maps 2 to 1, 8 to 11, and 8 to 15. Can you see what the problem is in this case? This number 8 is getting mapped over to two numbers in the range. Therefore, it is not a function. When you have a pictorial representation of a function, of some type of a relation, like this one on the left, we can see it's a function because every number in the domain has only one arrow coming out of it. In this example that's not a function, the number 8 has two arrows coming out of it. Not a function. Okay, let's look at an example. The fee, which we'll represent as this variable y, to rent a motorcycle for a day is $75 plus 50 cents for each mile that you ride the motorcycle. Let x be the number of miles that are ridden. So the daily fee depends upon x, the number of miles that you ride. We call x the independent variable, and we call y the dependent variable. Remember, y is the fee, and it depends on how many miles you drive. So x, or y, depends upon the value of x. The rule, or the function that models this example, would simply be this. Y, the fee, is equal to, well, no matter what, even if you drive 0 miles, you have to pay $75. And then you also have to pay $0.5, 50 cents, times the number of miles that you ride. So this would be the rule or the function that describes this model. We frequently refer to y as f of x because y is a function of x, and we would write it like this. F of x instead of y is 75 plus 0.5 times x. So the only difference between this and this is that we represented the variable y with f of x. If Bob rents a motorcycle for one day and rides 110 miles, then his fee, remember what the fee is, the variable y, his fee would be, we can say y, we know it equals 75 plus 0.5 times the number of miles that he rode. So this would be equal to, just simplifying it, 75 plus 0.5 times 110 is half of 110, which is 55, and that's equal to 130. Since that's a final answer, maybe I'll put the dollar sign. $130. If Angela rents a motorcycle for a day and the cost is $110, then how many miles did she ride? Well, the same formula, only the cost is $110. That's the fee. That's y. So in the formula, y is equal to 100. Oops, 110. 110 is equal to 75 plus 0.5x. So all we need to do to find the number of miles is solve for x. So I'm running out of room here. Let's say if I subtract 75 from both sides, I'll get 0.5x on the right-hand side, and I would get 35, 110 minus 75 on the left. Well, what does that tell us? Now I'm going to divide both sides by 0.5. Well, we can think about that as just multiplying both sides by 2. I'd like for the coefficient of the x to be a 1. If I double 0.5, it turns into a 1. So I'm going to double both sides to get x equals 70. And I reversed it there. Reversed the order. I put the x on the left-hand side. So x equals 70 is the number of miles. That's the correct answer. Okay, the last example in this video will be as follows. A family buys movie tickets, and how much it costs is dependent upon the rule described in this table. So one ticket cost $8.50. And if you'll notice, two tickets just cost 2 times $8.50, and so on. So let's write down the function using f of x notation. Let's save that one till the end. First, let's look at what the domain of f is. The domain is going to be all of the numbers in this column. The range is going to be all of the numbers in this column. So the domain is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I put squiggly brackets around it because these are sets. The domain and range are both sets. And then the range would be 850, 17, 2550, 34, and 4250. I left off the dollar signs. Okay, well, what is f of 2? It's very simple. We don't really have to do any arithmetic at all. We go down to the domain. The x value is a 2. So we go into the domain and we find the 2. And f of 2 is this number right here, 17. I left off the dollar sign. F of 5 just means you come down here. 5, the total price would be $42.50. So very easy to use the table. Well, as I mentioned earlier, if you'll notice, for example, the number 3 is this number $25.50 is just 3 times $8.50. So these tickets are $8.50 each. So the function would be f of x, where x is the number of tickets you're purchasing, and it'll come from this set here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, is equal to 8.50 times x. That's the function that determines how much you're going to spend on tickets. X is the number 1, it's $8.50. If x is the number 5, 8.50 times 5 gives you $42.50.